Pennington, and you're listening to Pop Culture Addicts.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to Pop Culture Addicts. I am Tim. I am your host, and this is a reminder that you are watching and or listening to a show that is made by a nerd. That's me, for all you nerds. So I hope you enjoy yourselves today. Now, today we have a guest. Our guest is an up-and-coming author of some pretty cool novels. I've known him for some other things in the past, and then I don't know how I missed the fact that he was an author, but I did. And then I found out he was an author, and I'm like, dude, I totally got to have you on the show so we can talk about your books. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. So he's written a trilogy of novels called Harlock's Destiny, and those novels are available on Amazon right now, as well as the Conclave Chronicles. You can check those out as well from there. We'll put a link for his Amazon store down below, so if you're interested in checking out his books, you'll be able to find them. Now, when he's not doing that, he's also working hard as an actor and a filmmaker. So in our chat tonight, we're going to discuss his origin story, the differences between writing and filmmaking, what it was like growing up in that state to the south of Michigan, the one that I don't normally say. It's 4 letters. Oh, how I hate Ohio. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But I'm very excited to welcome J.Tyler Pennington to Pop Culture Addicts. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello, hello. All right, sir. So we're going to just dive right into it because I have questions I want to ask, and hopefully you've got the answers, because otherwise this could be a really boring conversation.
That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. So the first question I always ask everybody, and I do this for 2 reasons. I explain this every show. I do this for 2 reasons. Number one, I like to know what makes people tick. Why do you do what you do? What keeps you going in the field that you're in? And then secondly, I do this because I'm a tremendously large nerd. And nerds love a good origin story. So you are the hero of today's story. So in the origin of J.Tyler Pennington, what made you say, I want to work in the field of entertainment?
Well, I failed at more or less everything else I tried, and this one stuck. So that is my very uninteresting origin story. But the true origin story would probably be a combination of sorrow, boredom, and the need to do something with my life.
Nice.
So I've always been like a creative kind of guy. I like writing and coming up with ideas and, telling stories and whatnot. So that's always been kind of a throughput through my life. But as like I said, I kind of tried different things. I tried leatherworking, woodworking, jewelry making. I tried all the creative endeavors, but nothing really clicked, in my head. And I wasn't really good at any of those. And then it was the plague times. And I had recently just broken up with a kind of a serious girlfriend, and the plague times happened. I'm stuck at home doing nothing, bored, going crazy. And I was like, I got to do something. And so I started just writing whatever I could. And that turned into the beginning of the Conclave Chronicles, which are my like H.P. Lovecraft inspired kind of like Cthulhu action adventure novellas. So wrote the first one of those. I was like, I actually like writing, and people seem to like the stories. And so, I was like, cool, people like what I write, and I like writing. And so kind of just got into that and continued on with it. And then the filmmaking stuff, I don't really remember exactly how I got into that. I want to say there in Cincinnati, which is Southern Ohio, there is an annual there's film competitions everywhere, but a specific film competition in Cincinnati called Winter Film was kicking off around that time. And I was like, that sounds fun. They need a body. I'm a body. And so I was corporate executive number 2 as my first acting gig. And I sat in in like a conference room wearing a $9 suit from Goodwill. Very fancy.
Heck yeah.
And then I got to say, I think it was like 2 sentences, and I was on screen for however long it takes to say 2 sentences. And that was my first acting gig, and I got hooked. And then did a couple other little acting things and was like, I want to do behind the scenes stuff. So I started volunteering as like your standard PA, holding doors, carrying waters, stuff like that. I was like, I want to do it for real. And so I bought a fancy camera little fancy camera. and started making random stuff. It's pretty fun. Okay. And here we are today.
Look at the empire I have built.
I know.
Yes. All right. So were there any like outside influences that, like, you know, in particular let's talk about your filmmaking first. Were there outside influences with your filmmaking where you looked and said, you know, I really like what this guy is doing, and I would like to make stories like that?
It was, there's not really one person that was kind of filling that void, but it was your standard kind of like Robert Rodriguez, where he made the mariachi, right, for like $20,000 or some ludicrous price, just begged, borrowed, and steal, begged, borrowed, and stole, proper English, and and there was a YouTube channel, words, and what is it? Film Riot is a YouTube channel. I got hooked into them, kind of wanting to get into the filmmaking scene, and it was I think two brothers and a sister, and the main guy went to film school, and he was like, well, let's show off how to do this. And through them I found Freddie Wong was also one who is now Rocket Jump, I think, and he started out just making, I want to say, like Call of Duty shorts, just first person shooter ones. And then he started doing long form stuff, and he was very much bottom of the barrel at the beginning, and got to the point where like famous directors were calling him and saying, hey, can you make a video with me? And I was like, I want to do that. That sounds fun. And started to try.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at your writing now for a couple moments. Now, you mentioned that your novellas, the Conclave Chronicles, were H.P. Lovecraft inspired, but were there any other outside influences for your writing where, other than H.P. Lovecraft, obviously, that you went, I think I could write something like that?
There's a fantasy show called The Magicians, and the kind of like vibe of them, there's, the secret world, and people kind of get involved with it. There was some book I read years ago. I can't even remember what it is now, but ideas from it kind of percolated in. A guy kind of out of his depths, dealing with things way over his head, all with the veneer of the Cthulhu mythos.
All right, very cool. Okay, so let's keep talking about your writing now. Your most recent book is book 3 of the Harlock's Destiny trilogy, and I had to laugh because I was looking up some stuff on it today, so I was finishing off a few things, and the description that is written there is fantastic. It says that the book includes magic, monsters, game mechanics, and a raccoon. I'm like, why? What about this would you not want to read? It's an RPG epic fantasy. I mean, come
on. Oh my God, yeah. I came up with that in like a fever dream one night, just like, I gotta come up with a catchy tune, and I spent hours coming up with the back cover blurb for book 1, and that the like description of the story was mediocre at best, but I got hooked on that. I was like, we got to describe it, and it's got to be like kind of one sentence. And I was like, it's got magic in it. Monsters got a raccoon. I was like, magic, monsters, and raccoon. That's it. And it just clicked. Yeah.
I love that. All right. So if you would take a couple minutes and explain to my audience about the book series for the Harlock Destiny trilogy, what, and particularly your latest book, book 3, explain to people what they can look forward to if they were to sit down and read these books.
Yeah. So they're epic fantasy, right? So you got a guy who is stuck in the middle of all the big plots of the world going on, a little bit in over his head, meets a wizard mentor, deals with, venturing guilds and having to fight monsters, treks across the land, stuff like that. The series itself is in the genre of lit RPG, which is literary role-playing game. Have you ever heard of that?
I had, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like there's every flavor imaginable. He Who Fights with Monsters, Dungeon Crawler Carl, anime of every sort.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? The Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Uncle from Another Dimension, those kind of veins. So Harlock,
Right.
the main character, ex-Special Forces mercenary, transported to medieval magical fantasy world, kind of finds out, oh, this is real. There are game mechanics, RPG-like game mechanics. Becomes a rogue, gets a pet raccoon, and starts on his epic adventure across the machinations of the southern neighbor of the country is going to invade. He's got to deal with the political intrigue, kind of building his own repertoire of people and equipment and stay alive while doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I have a couple friends that I forgot to send them your book links today, but I think that your books are right up their alley based on everything I've seen on them. So I'm actually my co-host Ben and his wife, Ben and Mimi, I think this is this is right in their veins. This should be like,
hell yeah.
It should hit a home run automatically. So I'm going to send that to them. As a matter of fact,
Sure.
I'll do that as soon as we get done here today. But okay. So and like I said, we'll put links down below for both the Conclave Chronicles and actually I'll just put your Amazon seller page,
That'll work.
your author page rather, right onto a link down below so people can go find your work and check that out. Now, I mentioned earlier that I don't like to mention the name of your state very often, just because being a Michigan Wolverine fan, I it's ingrained in me to not mention your state by name.
If it makes you feel any better, I don't like living here, let alone, feel free to hate on Ohio. Excuse me, the state that shall not be named as much as you want. I will not hurt my feelings.
Right. That state to the south is typically what we call it.
State to the south.
All right. So I love this about your bio. It said that you lived in Springfield, Ohio for 30 years, a city that had been twice voted the most depressing city in America. But you moved. Yep. You moved from Springfield, but you stayed in Ohio. So there's that.
Yeah, unfortunately, all my friends and family live nearby. Ugh, it's the worst.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's one of the reasons why we still live in Michigan, honestly. I love Michigan. Don't get me wrong. It's a great state, especially because of all the lakes and there's there's all these all the cool things to do, and I really enjoy that about Michigan. But I do. There's been a few states that I've traveled to. I'm like, God, I could live here real easy.
I just got back from the cruise. They got back from the cruise. We left New Orleans, and I was like, I could live here. This is awesome. Great food, everything you could possibly want to do. Oh, glorious.
Yeah. I had that reaction. A buddy of mine lived in the high desert in the mountains of Colorado.
Ooh.
And I was thinking, ooh, desert. He's like, actually, it's not that bad. Because they're about 10,000 feet above sea level there. And he's like, you think we get a lot of snow? He's like, we don't, because he says they get snow. He goes, but he says in 6 years of living there, he shoveled 4 times.
Oh, wow.
Because what happens is the snow would fall and then it would melt off by noon, 1 o'clock. It would just be gone. Okay. Because they're so. I think it was a little town called Buena Vista, and from what I understand, that region was second in the country only to San Diego for the most sunny days in the year.
Wow.
And and in the winter it only got in like the 40s and 50s. And I'm like,
oh, so it's not very cold at all then. Wow.
I'm like, this is ball game for me. Yeah. And so I'd gone out there and visited my buddy a couple times and a couple different trips, and my wife had gone out there for a couple business trips, and we'd go visit them. And every time we're there, I'm like, see, we could do this. We could. No, we couldn't. She said no, so I had to say no. But anyway, I told you all that so I could ask you this question. That's what we call building a clock to tell you the time.
All right, I'm ready.
So, and I asked a couple people now, and because I really enjoy talking to people from Michigan. Obviously, being a Michigan guy myself, people who grew up in Michigan with, and especially those who have been in the similar area as me, and even though I may not like your state, it's close enough. So I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you this question. How does growing up in a background such as yours, how has that affected your storytelling and world building?
Well, I grew up specifically like out in the county, about 10 miles from anything close to a mall, right? The Springfield Mall was back in the heyday when I was growing up in the 90s. It was pretty happening place. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
constantly, because it was essentially the only mall like around for a while, and then the Beaver Creek Mall came in and kind of killed it. But yeah, I grew up only child out in the boonies. There's the neighborhood kid who's kind of okay, and then the next kid I knew lived like almost a mile down the road, and so I played in the creek a lot and watched a lot of TV. Dad worked a lot, and so Saturday anime kind of got me back in Saturday anime, and I watched that, and that was kind of the thing that got me into the whole fantasticalness, because I read a lot, but it was more like Goosebumps and Animorphs and whatnot.
Okay.
Then I found out about Saturday anime, and that got me onto Toonami. And from there, it was just, oh yeah, this is my jam. I need fantastical stories. And then, as I got, because I lived out in the middle of nowhere, I was kind of not sheltered, but, kind of sheltered a little bit. And, starting talking to the nerd kids who were the same as me, and they started sharing stuff. And then I was like, cool. I know all about all the epic sci-fis and fantasies and all the cool animes and the book series you could possibly read. And yeah, kind of got me into it. Living out in the middle of nowhere in Ohio.
Okay. So another part of that question I've asked other creatives is, because growing up in a Midwest state, in a Midwest, in the country, how has Midwest sensibilities affected the projects you choose?
I guess probably more like filmmaking would be my like thing that has kind of affected it, because it's a lot of, and I'm assuming it's this way everywhere too, but in Ohio you have a whole bunch of people trying to make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of them are telling kind of small town, not all of them, but a lot of small town kind of personal stories, and a handful of people doing something one spot. There's your fair number of people trying to be like, I want to make the next big thing, and these crazy awesome ideas. But a lot of them are just, I want to make a film, and I want to make it about heartbreak or family or coming of age kind of stuff. And so those appeal to me as living out in the middle of nowhere, and being a kind of a dirt rat, as it were. And yeah, it's just nice to help make stuff that other people are trying to make that kind of symbolizes a lot of those things. A lot of those things.
Okay. No, that's a fair question.
Yeah.
That's a fair question.
That's a
a
good
fair
question,
answer
yeah.
to the question, rather. Excuse me. Yeah, I like that, because I think a lot of times the work that we choose, and I'll include myself in this, and
Sure.
a lot of times the character, the people that I invite on the show is because I have enjoyed something that they do, and I relate with something that they are doing or have done, or something along those lines. So I think the work that we choose is always a kind of an indication of who we are and what we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you found that to be the case with even, maybe not even so much with yourself, but maybe some of the people that you've worked with, you look at that, you think about it, you go, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of the filmmakers from the act down to the actor level, all the way up to the director producer people. They very much kind of you don't really know somebody from one interaction, but there's several people I've worked with 3, 4, 5 times, and you're like, oh, I see kind of the through line of your work. They were they're just making art based on themselves, like most people do.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, so I don't do it as much as I was, but I still contribute, or I write for a website called Couch Soup. And 9 times out of 10, the things that I write about on there, I don't know if anybody knows this about me, but I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Hey,
And so 9 times out of 10, the things I write about is Star Wars or Star Wars things, Star Wars related things, because I think we write about the things that we know about, the things that we're passionate about. And I would have to assume that it's the same when it comes to your writing and your filmmaking. How does your passion for things show up in your work?
I like stories, right? So I always like to try to tell something, that it's and how do you word this? So I'm very much like, I like my entertainment to be not surface level, but like right under the surface. I don't like the super deep stuff, right? Because I get enough drama in daily life, with friends and family and work and whatnot. I like to have the not turned up to 11, but close to 10. And so I like being in, filmmaking stuff that is a little more zany, that has a little more funness to it than the whole dramatic, I need to be an actor. I'm like, no, I want to be, I always say, I want to be like Frank Reynolds on It's Always Sunny. I want to crawl naked out of a couch covered in oil. Like, that would be my dream. I keep telling people, I'm like, whatever you want me to do, I will do it. Like, I'm a Frank Reynolds crawling out of a couch kind of guy. They're like, really? I was like, dude, butter me up. Let's go. Right? There is nothing I probably won't do for an entertainment.
I love that so much.
And so, in my writing, that doesn't really translate well to like written narrative. Sure. It's very funny visually. And so I like with Harlock's Destiny, the raccoon character, Ladron, a lady I used to work with gave the best description, far better than I could ever come up with. It makes me so mad. And she said, yeah, your first book, because it was shortly after she read it, she goes, it's very like adult, serious, fantasy novel with like high stakes and, whatever. And then the raccoon shows up. And every time the raccoon's involved, it swings hard the other direction into pure absurdity. I was like, yep. Yeah. And I have a slew of other things written that one day I'll finish editing and finish writing and finally put out. But, like I have a sci-fi novel where the robot medic, he's not an AI. He's like a fancy program, but the previous guy like tweaked around with it to try to make it better, and all it did was make him creepy. And so the ship has a creepy robot doctor, and it's really fun writing,
I love that.
Ridiculous scenes of a creepy robot doctor trying to treat patients. They're like, Jesus, dude. He's just sitting there staring at you, dead robot eyes as he's telling you horrible things about your condition. Stuff like that.
I love it. I love that. I love it when when I was growing up, I was a voracious reader when I was a young man, and then I discovered movies, and I was like, why read it if they'll just tell it to me?
Right.
And so I got away from reading, but in the last few years I've gotten back into audiobooks.
Okay.
And I really enjoy audiobooks. And I enjoy that when I'm listening to a story like the one you just described, where, there's a little bit of seriousness, maybe even a little pomp and circumstance.
Sure.
Well, Muffy, I'm very serious about this. And then all of a sudden there's the hard left turn off into God knows where, because the zany character has showed up and we now have gone to hell in a handbasket, but hysterically so.
Yes.
I think that that adds a really nice touch and flavor to a book.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. Like I don't mind a serious book, but I like more the doesn't take itself seriously kind of thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be more in the crowd of obviously I like a lot of serious fantasy and things like that, but I like my fantasy to have some whimsy as well.
Yeah, exactly. Whimsy. That's a good term. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to have some whimsy. If it's got whimsy, it's got me hooked. I'm going to pay attention to it. I'm going to watch, I'm going to listen, I'm going to be involved. So, when you're creating these worlds, do you write for the character first, or do you write for the world first? Do you flesh out everything around the character, or do you build the concept of the character first?
Bug trying to kill me. Jesus. Sorry.
You'll have that on these big jobs.
Oh, no. Okay, so with that, I would say I'm more of a character first kind of person. So they've called it a bunch of different things, but when a writer is either kind of like an architect or a discovery writer or a planner versus like a pantser. And so I'm more like 60-40 kind of like wing it. So I like to come up with a rough outline of, okay, you got this kind of guy doing these kind of things for these sort of reasons. And I get the bullet points, like your story structure. Okay, he goes here, he does this happens. But then I kind of just let the characters, like fill in the blanks for me, if it were. And, I go, okay, this is the kind of guy he is, but I don't really know what he likes. I'll figure that out as I go, if I figure it out at all. And I'll just start kind of writing and, let it take. And I'm big into like dialogue between two characters. I kind of build a lot of both of them and the world as well in dialogue. And so I'll just sit there and write conversations and, have 3, 4, 5 pages of just one or two people talking to each other and go, I didn't know that about the world. That's kind of interesting. And I didn't realize this guy was more of a jerk than I planned for him to be, or this guy was kind of an idiot. All right. and let it kind of form itself. And it's helped a lot because book 2, I finished and I was like, oh, how do I do this for book 3? And I made up a throwaway character who, not really a main, he's important, but he's, very much a side character for book 2. And then it's like, oh, hey, this solves huge problems in book 3 that I didn't even know I had at the time. And, that sometimes helps. And sometimes it hinders me because I write a character. I'm like, oh, God, this is important. I don't know what to do with him. It's terrible. Oh, no. So it's a double-edged sword.
Trying to connect the loop, tie off that bow.
Yeah, I have a problem with that sometimes. I'm like, yeah, more stuff. This will be fun to write. How do I add that in? Oh, no. What do I do with it now?
I'll make this work. Oh, yeah. Damn. So. All right. Well, as we've mentioned several different times throughout this conversation, you write, you film, you act. Now, all are different parts of artistic expression. Now, if you had to pick a favorite child, which form of your artistic expression do you most identify with and why?
It's a toss up between filmmaking and writing. But I'd say if I had to pick a winner, it'd be filmmaking. Not by much, though. Because writing is a very solitary thing. Most of the time I sit in my side room and just clickety-clack away for untold hours. I think I calculated if I wrote however many words a minute on average, it would have took me like 300 hours to write book 2 or something like that. It was crazy. And, many nights and days and just sitting in doctor visits on the phone, clicking away. And it's fun, but, you can't really share that with someone until you're finished. And by that time, you're kind of done with it for a while. Like I was like, okay, book 3, I don't want to write anything for like a month. And I've just done little to nothing. But filmmaking is very, very collaborative. You can make films by yourself, but it's very limited because, you got to have people on screen. You got somebody running the camera, pulling focus, the clapboard, lighting, power cables, and whatever. And then you have, everybody kind of working together to make all that happen. And, in every project I've ever been on, it's kind of interesting to see the microcosm of people who kind of, as we're all very amateur filmmakers, we're with the stuff I do, it's not, I don't really get hired to be like, you're going to be the guy and your only responsibility is X. I show up and like, hey, can you run sound and then like, help pull focus sometimes and then do this. And can you hop on screen and read these lines? We're all just trying to make it big. So we'll help each other. And it's very fun to see all that come together at the very end to be like, we made that together as a group and a team. And we all helped each other. It's nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with all that writing, filmmaking, and acting, it seems, because, you and I are friends on Facebook and I see a lot of your posts and you're always doing something. You always have an iron in the fire somewhere.
To my detriment.
Yeah. Well, to that end, I would imagine it's easy to burn out at times and get overextended.
Oh,
So
yes.
in the in-between times, what do you do to recharge your creative batteries? How do you keep yourself going?
Good question. I would say I do a good job of mostly not burning out by kind of focusing on. I'll do like filmmaking for a couple months and do a bunch of filmmaking stuff. Be like, I don't want to do this anymore, and then I go to writing. I write for a couple months. I don't want to do this anymore, and then I tick-tock back and forth most of the time. But when I do burn out, I like to just veg and catch up on movies and TV shows and play some video games. That's probably video games mostly. I'll go disappear into kind of my sandbox
Nice.
worlds. I'll play for days on end. Be like, okay, cool. I just spent 3 days, grinding component parts for whatever game or building a city or whatever, finishing a storyline, and then go back to writing. So I kind of go in long spurts of not burnout and then short spurts of horrible burnout where I don't want to touch anything or talk to anybody about stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So being a video game fanatic myself, what's the game of choice?
Right now I'm playing Warframe.
Okay. Played that in the past.
Oh yeah. And they've come out with some new expansions and whatnot. It's very fun. I run like a little like home server thing, and we're doing I'm not playing it because I played so much of it, I kind of burned myself out on the game, but Conan Exiles. Yeah, Conan Exiles. It just came out with a big like Unreal Engine 5 graphical update. So several friends are playing that. We'll do a lot of survival crafter games is kind of my jam.
Okay.
Yeah, Warframe and what's the one? Cyberpunk. I got back into it about 2 years. What was it? Whenever Phantom Liberty came out, about a year after that, I kind of got into it.
Nice.
Been kind of jumping back between several of them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just got a new gaming. Well, it's new to me. I just got a gaming PC a little bit ago.
Nice.
And I was just excited to be able, because I've had a MacBook for so long.
Yeah.
And as much as I love my MacBook, it's great. I use it for this. I use it for editing, and I use it. It's so good as a work device.
It's right. Fantastic as workstation.
My MacBook Pro it's a workhorse, and I love this thing.
Oh yeah.
My only complaint is it doesn't play games very well.
No, it does not.
For whatever reason, they haven't been able to figure that out. But so I got an opportunity to buy a really well-built gaming PC, and I got it ridiculously cheap. I scored big.
Hell yeah.
Let's just put it this way. The price I paid for the device was a couple $100 cheaper than the really expensive graphic card in it.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a good deal.
So I was really excited to be able to download Steam again, and I'm a huge sucker for like the Age of Empires game.
Oh yeah, I love RTS.
Yeah, so if I just need to I want a stress-free environment just to go click a few buttons, do some farming, cut some firewood, and attack the neighbors. I'm going to play some Age of Empires.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. All right, well, cool.
Yeah.
All right, you have answered all of my questions admirably, except one. We have one more to ask.
Okay.
You answered all the serious questions. Now it's time for a silly question.
Silly question. All right, really.
Yeah.
Silly time.
So it's not all that horribly silly. We just like to call it a silly question because whimsy. But so where this comes about is, so my live show co-host Kathleen, she was out and about with her daughter. Her daughter's about 7. I think at this time she was about 5.5 when this happened.
Okay.
And somebody asked her daughter this question, but they didn't ask Kathleen. And Kathleen was like, well, that's rude. You should never age out of this question.
Okay.
And so that question is, J.Tyler Pennington, what's your favorite dinosaur?
What's my favorite dinosaur?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, that's a left field question. I like so many dinosaurs.
And that's why it's a fun question.
That is a fun question. So I played a lot of Ark Survival.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've ridden a lot of dinosaurs. And, oh, geez. It probably, I have to go, like, what's the what is it, the Spinosaurus, right? The kind of like alligator looking one with the big frill. Is that the Spinosaurus?
Oh yeah, the big fin on it, the back.
Yeah.
I know which one you're talking. I don't know the name of it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, whatever one that's called. Yeah.
What the hell?
Sure.
We're gonna go with Spinosaurus.
Yeah. I like that one because it's like a really rad alligator. I like alligators and crocodiles. They're pretty cool. And it's kind of like a big giant one of those. And I was, as one does, doom scrolls on the internets, on the Book of Faces. I saw a post where they're like, we don't really know much about what dinosaurs actually look like. You don't really know their coloration. Like they finally found out they had feathers. Oh, who knew? Well, they showed a post of, I think it was a skeleton of like a rabbit. And they said, what? Here's a skeleton. Here's what the artist rendition is. Here's what it really is. And it's like this cute little fluffy rabbit. And they're showing, like, yeah, so, we probably have a lot of wrong assumptions about dinosaurs and their appearances. One of which was that Spinosaurus dinosaur. And so that has that big frill on its back. Oh, excuse me. They said, well, why is that frill there? Maybe it's some kind of heat dissipation thing. We just don't know. He said, well, what if it's a muscle attachment? And they showed buffaloes, and buffaloes have that big ridge on their, that kind of like hump on their back.
Yeah.
And that's where all their neck muscles like anchor to. And it gives them the ability to like take a car and flip it with their head, several thousand pounds, and they do it relatively effortlessly. And so they're like, what if it wasn't like an alligator looking slender reptile thing? It was more like a chunk, right? And it had like an artist rendition of this Spinosaurus with this big old thick boy neck. He's like, it probably was like, a beefy boy just living in the water, tossing things with his head as a defensive thing. I was like, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I want that dinosaur to
living
like
its
that.
best life.
Living its best life, just as a big old boy neck. Yes, that thing.
Yeah, that is actually called the Spinosaurus.
Yes, those things are dope.
That's
so cool.
You know what? I think that is the first time the Spinosaurus has been picked, by the way. So you are an original for your selection. That is very cool. That's a cool pick. Yeah, that's a cool dinosaur.
Yeah, they're cool.
Very rarely do I look at a dinosaur and go, yeah, it's stupid. They're dumb. Yeah, every time I'm like, yeah, I like that one. Can I learn more, please?
That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
All right, man. Hey, thank you so much for being on Pop Culture Addicts today, man. This is awesome. Good talk. So where can my listeners and video viewers go to find out more about you, your work, anything you got coming up?
Let's see here. So I am terrible about updating everything because, why would I do that and promote myself efficiently? Overrated. Facebook, J.Tyler, the letter J, Tyler Pennington. I'm on Facebook, and that's the same for Instagram. I'm kind of more on Facebook than anywhere else. That's your best place to find out about me because I have a YouTube channel, and you search for it, and it never really comes up with some random videos I've made. And anything I do, not on Facebook, I will post links on Facebook to it. So it's probably your best bet to find me and know all the cool things I'm up to.
Excellent. Well, like I said earlier, I'm going to put your Amazon author page down in the show notes, and I'll put your Facebook link down in the show notes as well, so people can follow your page there and keep up with what's going on. So we'll make sure those links get in there. So, awesome. All right, very cool. All right, guys, this seems like a great time to remind you that if you haven't already, now is a great time to click the like and subscribe button here on our YouTube channel, because that is a completely free, cost-free, $0 cents, pesos, Canadian dollars even. It's pounds, lira, wherever we're going with this, it's free. It doesn't cost anything in any country. So anyway, but what that does is it helps our show to continue to grow, get amazing guests like J.Tyler Pennington here to have these great conversations with, and give you guys something fun to listen to on your drive home from work. So give us a follow, please. It helps us out more than we can ever really tell you. And go check out J.Tyler Pennington's work, both on the Amazon link we're going to include down below, which if you have a Kindle Unlimited account, you're in like Flynn, and his Facebook account as well. So lots of cool things for you guys to check out. So on behalf of J.Tyler Pennington, thank you for watching and or listening to Pop Culture Addicts today. and may the force be with you as you continue to live long and prosper. Goodbye. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Pop Culture Addicts. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@pcapod.com.